We don't run a charity here. Jake Morrison's voice cuts through Brighton Auto Repair like a blade. Eleanor Hayes clutches her worn purse, watching her last $20 bill disappear back inside. Please, my brakes are failing. I just need Lady. Take your junk car somewhere else. Jake turns away, dismissing the elderly woman entirely. Kesha Williams should walk away, should keep her head down, keep her job. The eviction notice in her locker says she can't afford to lose this paycheck, but Eleanor's hands are shaking. Ma'am, Kesha steps forward, ignoring Jake's glare. Pop your hood. I'll take a look. Kesha, what did I just say? Jake's face reens. Eleanor's eyes meet Kesha's gratitude mixed with something else. Something that looks almost like recognition. Thank you, child, Eleanor whispers. Jake storms over. You're fired. Get out, both of you. The words land harder than the slam of a car hood. For a moment, the entire shop freezes. The whine of an impact wrench dies mid-spin. A radio crackles with static before someone hurriedly turns it off. Kesha Williams straightens slowly, grease on her hands, heart pounding so loud she's sure everyone can hear it. 8 years. 8 years of busted knuckles, missed lunches, and late nights fixing cars no one else wanted to touch. And just like that, gone. Jake Morrison points toward the door as if swatting away flies. You heard me. I don't pay employees to play hero. Eleanor's shoulders tense. Please, she says softly. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I can go. Kesha shakes her head before she can stop herself. No, Mom. Your brakes are dangerous. You won't make it 2 blocks. Jake lets out a humorless laugh. Not my problem. Liability ends when you walk out that door. Kesha feels something snap. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deep inside. The quiet kind of breaking that comes after too much swallowing and too many yes-sirs. She pulls off her gloves and sets them neatly on the workbench. I couldn't live with myself if she got hurt, Kesha says, voice steady despite the storm inside her chest. Jake's eyes narrow. Then you should start living with unemployment. Eleanor reaches for Kesha's arm. Her fingers tremble, but her grip is firm. I'm so sorry, she whispers. You didn't have to do this for me. Kesha offers a small smile. Someone once helped my mom when we had nothing. Guess I'm just returning the favor. Jake barks for security, but no one moves. The younger mechanics stare at the floor. They've seen this before. Speaking up never ends well. Outside, the afternoon sun feels too bright, too indifferent. Eleanor's old sedan sits crooked in the parking lot, its rusted bumper telling a story of years lived carefully. Kesha takes a deep breath. No job, no backup plan. Rent due in 3 days. Eleanor studies her face, really studies it now, not just the grease-smudged mechanic, but the woman beneath it. Her expression shifts, subtle but unmistakable. Something thoughtful, calculating, almost troubled. This isn't over, Eleanor says quietly. Kesha exhales a bitter laugh. For me, it probably is. Eleanor doesn't answer right away. She opens her car door, then pauses. Sometimes, she says slowly, the smallest moments decide much bigger things than we realize. Kesha watches the old woman drive away, unaware that this single act of kindness has just set something massive into motion. Kesha thinks she's just lost everything, but by tonight, a phone call will be made that Jake Morrison never sees coming. The flickering light in Kesha Williams' apartment hums like a dying insect as she sits on the edge of her bed, staring at the eviction notice taped crookedly to the door. 72 hours. That's all the mercy the paper offers. The room smells faintly of motor oil and instant noodles. Her work boots sit by the door, still dusted with concrete from Brighton Auto Repair, like they're waiting for a shift that will never come. She empties her wallet onto the bed. $43, some loose change. Her last paycheck, already spoken for by rent, utilities, and a past-due phone bill. Helping that old woman didn't just cost her a job. It collapsed the thin wall holding everything else upright. Her phone vibrates. Marcus. Sis, you good? Financial aid messed up again. I hate asking, but... Kesha closes her eyes and deletes the message. Not because she doesn't love her younger brother. Because loving him means not dragging him down with her. He's the future, She's just trying to survive the present. Across town, Eleanor Hayes sits alone at her kitchen table, hands folded around a chipped porcelain mug she's owned longer than most people have had careers. The house is quiet in the way only lived-in homes get, full of echoes, memories, and restraint. Framed photographs line the wall beside her, ribbon cuttings, grand openings, smiling faces in front of freshly painted auto shops. One photo holds her gaze. Her late husband, William Hayes, standing proudly beside a single repair bay in 1978. No suit, just rolled-up sleeves and grease-stained hands. "We're not just fixing cars, Ellie," he used to say. "We're helping people when they're vulnerable." Eleanor exhales slowly. "What happened to us, Will?" she murmurs. She reaches for her phone, stops, sets it down, picks it up again. The kindness in Keisha's eyes at the shop keeps replaying in her mind. The way she stepped forward without hesitation. The way Jake Morrison dismissed a human being like scrap metal. Eleanor dials. The call connects almost instantly. "Mom?" Robert Hayes answers, voice thick with exhaustion and authority. "Is everything all right?" "I need you to listen," Eleanor says. No hesitation, no softness. "Today I went to one of your repair shops." There's a pause. "You what?" "Brighton Auto Repair, Morrison Street." Her voice sharpens. "I was treated like I was invisible, but a young mechanic, Kesha Williams, helped me anyway. She was fired for it." Silence stretches across the line, heavy and unfamiliar. "She fixed my brakes," Eleanor continues. "Your manager fired her for showing decency." Robert finally speaks, slower now. "Are you certain?" Eleanor closes her eyes. "I am absolutely certain." Outside, night settles over the city. Jake Morrison laughs somewhere over cheap beer, convinced he made the right call. Kesha stares at the ceiling, wondering how fast everything can fall apart. Neither of them knows what Eleanor Hayes just set into motion. By morning, Robert Hayes will uncover a truth about his company and a manager that threatens to tear everything down. Morning comes too quickly for Kesha Williams. The knock on her apartment door is firm, but not cruel. The kind that says, "I don't want to do this, but I have to." She already knows who it is before she opens it. Mr. Peterson, her landlord, stands in the hallway with his hands folded in front of him. His eyes drift past her, taking in the half-packed boxes, the laundry basket stuffed with clothes, the exhaustion she hasn't bothered to hide. "Kesha," he says quietly, "I'm sorry. You know I tried." She nods. Talking feels pointless when the outcome is already decided. "I can give you a week to store your things in the basement," he adds. "But the apartment, I need it vacant by Friday." "I understand," she replies. And she does. He's not the villain here. The world doesn't need villains to break people, just rules and deadlines. When the door closes, Keisha slides down the wall until she's sitting on the cold floor. Her phone buzzes again. A voicemail this time. Another shop. Another rejection. The words are always polite, always final. "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." Word travels fast in a tight industry. Jake Morrison made sure of that. At Hayes Automotive Group headquarters, Robert Hayes hasn't slept. 3 folders sit open on his desk, each labeled confidential. Complaints, settlements, patterns that were too easy to ignore when profits looked healthy. Jake Morrison's name appears again and again. 3 discrimination claims, quietly dismissed. 2 mechanics terminated for attitude issues. Customer complaints flagged, then buried. Robert rubs his temples, anger simmering beneath control. "How did this get past us?" he mutters. A soft knock interrupts his thoughts. "Sir," says Marcus Webb, head of internal security. "You asked for preliminary findings." Robert gestures him in. "This isn't an isolated incident," Marcus continues. "Morrison's been pushing an aggressive profit-first culture. Targets employees who slow things down, especially with elderly or low-income customers." Robert's jaw tightens. "And the mechanic my mother mentioned?" "Kesha Williams. Clean record. Strong performance reviews. Top diagnostic scores in her region." Robert leans back, staring at the ceiling. The weight of leadership presses down harder than any board meeting ever has. Elsewhere, Eleanor Hayes kneels beside her husband's grave, morning dew soaking through her slacks. You always said character shows when nobody's watching, she whispers. Yesterday I watched. The wind moves gently through the trees, carrying no answers, only resolve. Back at Brighton Auto Repair, Jake Morrison arrives late, whistling. He's already forgotten Kesha's face. To him, she's just another problem removed. Morning, boss, a mechanic says cautiously. Jake smirks. See? Shop runs just fine without bleeding hearts. None of them reply. Across town, Kesha sits in the public library, applying for jobs using free Wi-Fi, unaware that the man who fired her is being watched, and that Eleanor Hayes has decided this will not end quietly. By the end of today, Jake Morrison will celebrate a promotion, never realizing it's the first step toward his downfall. Jake Morrison's phone buzzes just as he's finishing his second coffee. He glances at the screen and grins. Corporate, finally. He steps outside Brighton Auto Repair, the noise of impact guns fading behind him as he answers. Morrison, he says, already pleased with himself. Jake, comes the smooth voice of Regional Director Patterson. Just wanted to let you know, corporate's impressed with your numbers. Jake straightens. Happy to hear that, sir. I run a tight operation. That you do. In fact, we're moving you up. District manager. 15 locations. You start immediately. Jake laughs, loud and sharp. You won't regret it. As he hangs up, Jake stares at his reflection in the shop window. Bigger territory, more power, more control. Whatever conscience Brighton Auto Repair once had, died with Kesha Williams, and profits went up because of it. At Hayes Automotive Headquarters, Robert Hayes watches a very different reflection on his monitor. Hidden camera footage streams in from Brighton Auto Repair. Jake barking orders, dismissing an elderly man with a hearing aid, overcharging a nervous customer who hesitates at the estimate. Get me everything, Robert says quietly. Personnel files, customer complaints, financial records. Marcus Webb hesitates. Sir, moving this fast. My mother tested us, Robert interrupts, and we failed. Marcus nods. Understood. Kesha Williams drives on fumes toward a small garage an hour outside the city, Carter's Automotive. Mrs. Carter from the library had made the call. Anyone who helps strangers without expecting payment is welcome here, she'd said. David Carter meets her at the bay door, wiping his hands on a rag. So you're the one who got fired for fixing brakes? Yes, sir, Kesha replies. Probably not my smartest move, David chuckles. Depends on your values. Show me what you know. 15 minutes later, Kesha diagnoses a timing chain issue by sound alone. David's eyebrows lift. You're hired, he says simply. The words nearly knock her off her feet. Back at headquarters, Eleanor Hayes sits calmly in the boardroom as reports stack higher. This goes deeper than one manager, Marcus says. He's trained others. Eleanor's eyes harden. Then we don't stop at one, she stands. Let him feel safe, let him think he's won. Robert looks at her, uneasy. Mom, that means more people get hurt. Briefly, Eleanor replies. But when this ends, it ends for good. That evening, Jake Morrison hosts his first district meeting. He stands at the front, like a preacher of profit. Customer sympathy is a liability, he tells the room. You want success? Stop bleeding for people who can't pay. Some managers nod. Others shift uncomfortably. Hidden in the ceiling, a camera blinks red. Jake smiles, unaware he's writing his own indictment. Across town, Kesha unpacks a few boxes in her new studio apartment. It's small, temporary. But for the first time in days, she breathes. She doesn't see the black sedan pause across the street. Doesn't notice Eleanor Hayes watching quietly from inside. Jake thinks power protects him, but every word he speaks is being recorded, and the trap is almost set. By Wednesday morning, Jake Morrison is everywhere. He strides into shops unannounced, clipboard tucked under his arm, confidence dripping from every step. Managers stiffen when they see him. Mechanics straighten up. Fear has a way of sharpening attention. Profit margins are discipline, Jake tells them. Discipline keeps doors open. At Westside Auto, a manager named Tom raises a cautious hand. What about customer loyalty? Reputation? Jake laughs. Loyalty doesn't pay rent. You charge full price while they're here because they won't be loyal anyway. Several heads nod, others don't. Hidden in a service bay smoke detector, the camera keeps rolling. At Carter's Automotive, Kesha's second day feels like a different universe. No shouting, no pressure. David Carter actually listens when customers talk. When an elderly woman worries aloud about repair costs, Kesha kneels beside her and explains each step without rushing. Most places wouldn't bother, the woman says. Most places forget people remember how you make them feel, Kesha replies. Word spreads faster than advertising ever could. At Hayes Automotive headquarters, the evidence piles up. 17 confirmed cases, Marcus reports. Discrimination, wrongful termination, fraud. Robert exhales slowly. And the regional director? Complicit. Robert stares out the window. Then we clean house. Thursday brings a surprise. Jake Morrison walks into Carter's Automotive for an inspection. David greets him politely. Jake's eyes roam the shop until they land on Kesha. Recognition flashes, followed by something colder. That mechanic, Jake says casually. She looks familiar. Kesha meets his stare, calm, unflinching. Jake smirks. Interesting. He leaves behind paperwork that smells like trouble. That night, Eleanor Hayes reviews footage alone. Jake mocking employees, teaching cruelty, laughing. She closes the folder. Tomorrow, she says into the quiet room. Friday morning, Carter's Automotive receives an official notice. Under investigation. Hayes' partnership suspended. David crumples the letter and tosses it in the trash. Kesha, he says, meeting her eyes, you're not the problem. She swallows hard. I never wanted this. Good, David replies. Means you're worth fighting for. Across the city, Jake pours himself a drink. Confident, powerful, untouchable. His phone buzzes with congratulations from corporate peers. He has no idea the boardroom is being prepared. Jake Morrison thinks he's rising, but by tomorrow morning, every lie he's told will be waiting for him. Saturday morning arrives wrapped in false confidence. Jake Morrison parks his company sedan in the executive lot at Hayes Automotive Group headquarters, adjusting his tie as he steps inside. The marble floors gleam. The walls shine with framed awards. Community Excellence, Employer of the Year. Jake barely notices the irony. He believes he's here to be celebrated. Upstairs, the boardroom fills slowly. Regional managers murmur among themselves. Media cameras are set up for an internal announcement. Jake grins. They're documenting my promotion, he thinks. In the back row, Kesha Williams sits stiffly in a borrowed blazer, still unsure why she's been summoned. Her heart races. She recognizes faces from emails, powerful people who never return calls. Near the head of the table, Eleanor Hayes takes her seat quietly. No fanfare, no entourage, just presence. Robert Hayes steps forward. Thank you all for coming, he begins. Today is about the future of Hayes Automotive Group. Jake straightens. And before we move forward, Robert continues, I want to revisit our past. Eleanor stands. The room shifts. Some board members exchange uneasy glances. Others sit straighter, suddenly aware of who truly holds authority. My husband founded this company on a simple idea, Eleanor says calmly. That dignity matters more than profit. Jake's smile falters. 3 weeks ago, she continues, I visited one of our locations posing as an ordinary customer. Jake's chest tightens. I was dismissed, belittled, turned away. Cameras swivel. But one employee helped me anyway. Eleanor turns toward Kesha. Please stand. Kesha rises, hands trembling. For that act of kindness, Eleanor says, her voice firm, this manager fired her. Robert gestures to the screen. The lights dim. Jake's own voice fills the room, boasting, mocking, teaching others how to exploit people. When the lights come back up, Jake is pale. Jake Morrison, Robert says evenly. You are terminated effective immediately. Legal action will follow. Security appears. Jake stumbles to his feet. This is a mistake. Eleanor meets his eyes. The woman you fired for helping an old customer, she says softly. That was me. The room erupts. Jake collapses into his chair as security escorts him out. Eleanor turns back to Kesha. "Miss Williams," she says, "I offer you a position ensuring this company never forgets who it serves." Tears blur Kesha's vision. Jake's fall is public, but the real transformation is just beginning. The boardroom doesn't quiet down immediately. Whispers ripple like electricity after a lightning strike. Executives lean toward one another. Reporters murmur into microphones. Jake Morrison's name trends on screens before the elevator doors even close behind him. Kesha Williams remains standing, unsure whether to sit or disappear. Eleanor Hayes places a steady hand on her arm. "You did nothing wrong," she says softly. "Remember that." Robert steps back to the podium, voice firm but controlled. Effective immediately, Hayes Automotive Group is suspending all district-level management pending review. Every shop will be audited, every complaint reopened. A few regional directors exchange nervous looks. They understand what that means. Silence no longer protects anyone. By afternoon, the fallout begins. Phones ring non-stop at headquarters. Legal teams scramble. Sponsors demand statements. Employees across hundreds of locations refresh internal emails in disbelief. At Brighton Auto Repair, mechanics gather around a phone watching a leaked clip of the boardroom footage. "That old lady," Miguel whispers. "She was the owner's mom." Tony exhales slowly. "And we just stood there." Guilt settles heavy in the room. Kesha spends the rest of the day in a quiet office with Eleanor and Robert, answering questions. She doesn't exaggerate, doesn't dramatize, she just tells the truth. About the eviction notice, about being blacklisted, about watching co-workers fired for attitude when all they did was help someone. Eleanor listens without interrupting. "This is why," she finally says, "culture rots quietly." That evening, Jake Morrison sits alone in his apartment, suit jacket still on, tie loosened. His phone buzzes endlessly. News alerts, missed calls, voicemails he doesn't open. Discrimination, fraud, wrongful termination. He pours a drink with shaking hands. For the first time, he wonders what would have happened if he'd just fixed the brakes. At Carter's Automotive, David closes up shop early. He and Kesha sit on overturned crates in the service bay. "You okay?" he asks. "I don't know," she admits. "Everything feels unreal." David nods. That's what happens when the truth finally catches up. Her phone buzzes. A message from Marcus, her brother. "Sis, I saw the news." "That was you?" She smiles through tears. Across town, Eleanor Hayes stands in her kitchen, looking at the same photo of her husband. "We did the right thing," she says quietly, but she knows this isn't over, not yet. Too many people learned the wrong lessons under Jake Morrison's watch. Too many shops still run on fear. Tomorrow, Eleanor plans to fix that. Jake is gone, but the system that protected him is still standing, and Eleanor Hayes is about to tear it down piece by piece. Sunday morning doesn't bring peace, it brings reckoning. Robert Hayes stands before a room filled with legal counsel, investigators, and senior executives who suddenly look far less confident than they did a week ago. The atmosphere is heavy, the kind that precedes irreversible change. "We are not here to minimize damage," Robert says evenly. "We are here to correct it." Folders slide across the table, names, dates, settlements quietly paid, and complaints quietly buried, each one another crack in the polished image Hayes Automotive Group spent decades building. Eleanor sits at the far end, hands folded, eyes sharp. "Every complaint dismissed without review," she says, "will be reopened. Every manager who silenced an employee will be questioned." No one argues. At Carter's Automotive, Kesha arrives early, unsure how she feels about becoming a symbol. Customers recognize her now. Some offer congratulations, others offer gratitude. A few simply nod, eyes warm with understanding. An elderly man grips her hand after she explains his repair options. "You remind me of my daughter," he says. "She never cut corners either." Kesha swallows hard. This is what mattered. By afternoon, corporate auditors flood multiple locations. Signs appear on shop doors announcing reviews and policy resets. Employees whisper nervously. Managers sweat. At Brighton Auto Repair, Miguel watches an investigator question the interim supervisor. "It's about time," he mutters. Jake Morrison's world continues to shrink. His bank cards decline. His emails bounce back. Recruiters stop answering. Former allies don't recognize his calls. He scrolls through social media, reading comment after comment. He fired her for helping someone. Disgusting. Good riddance. Jake throws his phone across the room. That evening, Eleanor invites Keisha to dinner. The house is modest, warm, smells like rosemary and bread, not the mansion Keisha imagined. "You don't have to accept the position," Eleanor says gently. "I offered it because you earned it, not because I feel sorry for you." Keisha considers this carefully. "If I say yes, can I really change things?" Eleanor smiles. "Only if you're willing to be uncomfortable." Keisha nods. "I already am." They share a quiet laugh. Late that night, Robert sends a company-wide memo. The Williams Protocol. Compassion First Service. Zero tolerance for discrimination. Mandatory training across all locations. Employees read it slowly, some skeptically, others with relief. A line at the bottom stands out. Character is not optional. Keisha lies awake in her apartment, staring at the ceiling. 3 days ago, she thought her life was over. Now, it's beginning again, on terms she never imagined. As the company changes from the inside, Jake Morrison prepares one last desperate move, and it won't be quiet. Jake Morrison doesn't go quietly. By Monday morning, his lawyer has filed a statement accusing Hayes Automotive Group of wrongful termination, age discrimination, and public defamation. The story hits smaller outlets first, carefully framed, deliberately vague. Former executive claims scapegoating. Jake sits stiffly across from his attorney, jaw clenched. "They ruined me," he snaps. "I want blood." "You want silence," the lawyer replies calmly. "And maybe a settlement." Jake scoffs. "They'll pay." At headquarters, Robert reads the filing without expression. "Let him talk," Eleanor says, seated beside him. "People reveal themselves when they're afraid." She's right. Within hours, footage leaks, full recordings. Jake's voice, unedited. His policies, his cruelty. The narrative collapses. Keisha's first official day under her new role begins quietly. No office ceremony, no applause, just a stack of reports and a long list of shops to visit. David Carter hugs her before she leaves. "Go make trouble," he says with a grin. She smiles. The right kind. At Brighton Auto Repair, Keisha steps inside again for the first time since being fired. The room falls silent. Miguel looks up, stunned. "Keisha?" She nods. "I'm here to listen." They talk for hours, about fear, about silence, about what happens when doing the right thing costs too much. Keisha takes notes. That night, Jake watches a news anchor read the words, "Criminal investigation opened." His hands shake. For the first time, he understands something essential. Power never belonged to him. It was borrowed, and now it's gone. Eleanor stands on her porch, watching the sunset. "People think justice is loud," she says to Robert, "but it's usually very quiet until the moment it isn't." Robert nods. Tomorrow, indictments may follow. As Jake's last defenses crumble, Keisha walks back into the place where everything started, this time with the power to change it forever. Brighton Auto Repair doesn't look the same to Keisha anymore. The fluorescent lights are harsher than she remembers. The waiting chairs more worn, the silence heavier. But this time, when she walks through the door, she isn't afraid of losing her job. She's here to decide the future of this place. The interim manager stands nervously as Keisha reviews reports, interviews staff, and listens, really listens, to stories that were never meant to leave these walls. Miguel speaks first. "Jake used fear. You crossed him once. You were done." Tony nods. "People stopped helping customers because it was safer not to care." Keisha closes her notebook slowly. "That ends now." Across the city, Jake Morrison sits in a windowless room at his attorney's office, staring at a document that changes everything. Charges recommended. Discrimination, retaliation, financial misconduct. The lawyer clears his throat. They're not settling, Jake laughs weakly. They have to. No, the lawyer replies. They don't. At Hayes Automotive headquarters, Eleanor addresses a room full of shop leaders. This isn't about punishment, she says calmly. It's about memory. We forgot who we were. She gestures to Kesha. She remembers. Kesha steps forward. Every customer matters. Every employee matters. If that costs you profit, you're not doing business. You're doing harm. Some nod. Others look uncomfortable. That's fine. Growth always is. Brighton Auto Repair reopens the following week under new leadership. Kesha returns, not as an employee but as an overseer. She watches a mechanic patiently explain options to a worried mother, sees an elderly man offered a payment plan without being shamed. This is how change happens, not overnight, but deliberately. That evening, Jake watches the shop's reopening announcement on his phone. His name is never mentioned. That hurts more than anything. Kesha receives a text from Marcus. Proud of you, sis. She smiles. Eleanor sits beside her at the shop's small break table, sipping coffee. You know, she says softly, this all started because you didn't walk away. Kesha nods. I couldn't. Eleanor smiles. That's how I knew. Jake Morrison is about to face the final consequences, but Kesha's greatest test is still ahead. The courtroom is smaller than Kesha expected. No grand speeches, no dramatic music, just wooden benches, tired faces, and the quiet gravity of consequence. Jake Morrison sits at the defense table in a wrinkled suit, shoulders slumped, eyes darting anywhere but forward. He looks smaller now. Kesha watches from the back row beside Eleanor Hayes. Neither of them speaks. They don't need to. The prosecutor lays it out plainly. Patterns of discrimination, documented retaliation, financial manipulation. Witness statements from former employees echo through the room. Names Kesha recognizes. Stories she lived. Jake's attorney tries to reframe it as aggressive management. The judge isn't persuaded. When the verdict comes, it's swift. Guilty. Jake closes his eyes. There's no outburst, no apology. Just the quiet collapse of a man who finally understands that cruelty has a cost. Outside, reporters swarm, but Eleanor shields Kesha gently. Say nothing, Eleanor murmurs. Let the truth speak for itself. They walk away together, cameras flashing behind them like distant lightning. In the weeks that follow, Hayes Automotive Group continues its transformation. 17 wrongfully terminated employees are offered reinstatement or compensation. Training sessions roll out nationwide. Some managers resign. Others adapt. A few are removed. Kesha travels constantly now, shop to shop, city to city, listening, teaching, correcting. It's exhausting. One night she calls Eleanor from a hotel room. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, Kesha admits. Eleanor smiles on the other end of the line. You already are. Strength isn't loud, it's consistent. Jake Morrison is sentenced quietly. No cameras this time, no audience, just a gavel and finality. Back at Brighton Auto Repair, a familiar hum fills the air again. Tools, voices, honest work. Miguel trains a new apprentice. Tony laughs with a customer. Kesha watches from the doorway, hands in her pockets. This place once took everything from her. Now, it stands as proof that it didn't win. Eleanor joins her. Ready to see what you've built? Kesha nods, emotion tightening her throat. But Eleanor knows something Kesha doesn't yet. One final chapter remains. Just when Kesha believes the story is over, Eleanor reveals a decision that will change her life forever. The morning Eleanor Hayes asks Kesha to come by her house, the sky is unusually clear, no storm clouds, no tension in the air, just quiet. Kesha arrives, expecting another meeting, another list of shops to review, another problem to solve. Instead, Eleanor pours tea and gestures for her to sit at the small kitchen table, the same one where all of this truly began. I've spent my whole life protecting this company, Eleanor says gently. But companies don't need protecting, people do. Kesha listens, hands wrapped around the warm cup. My husband believed leadership wasn't about power, Eleanor continues. It was about responsibility. And I think I finally know how to honor that. She slides a folder across the table. Inside is a formal appointment. Senior Director of Ethics and Community Standards, Hayes Automotive Group. Kesha's breath catches. This is bigger than what I'm doing now. Eleanor nods. It's meant to be. You won't just correct behavior after it happens, you'll help prevent it. Tears well in Kesha's eyes. Why me? Eleanor reaches across the table and squeezes her hand. Because when it mattered most, you chose compassion over fear. That's not something you can train. Months later, the change is undeniable. Customer satisfaction is at record highs. Employee retention has stabilized. Profits, once thought to require cruelty, have actually increased. Word spreads that Hayes automotive shops are different now, honest, human. At Brighton Auto Repair, a plaque hangs near the entrance. We serve people, not profits. Miguel points it out proudly to customers. Tony mentors new hires with patience. The culture that once punished kindness now rewards it. And Jake Morrison? He fades into irrelevance. No platform, no influence, just a cautionary tale whispered in management trainings about what happens when power is abused. On a quiet afternoon, Eleanor visits a Hayes shop for a routine oil change. She sits in the waiting area, watching Kesha explain repair options to a nervous customer with the same calm dignity she showed months ago. Eleanor smiles. The world didn't change because of wealth. It didn't change because of power. It changed because one person refused to walk away. Sometimes, doing the right thing costs everything you have. And sometimes, it gives you more than you ever imagined. If this story reminded you that kindness still matters, that integrity still has power, and that doing the right thing is never wasted, even when it feels invisible, then remember this. You never know who's watching, and you never know how far one good choice can travel. If you believe compassion should always come before profit, tap like. If you believe standing up for what's right still matters, subscribe for more real, powerful stories like this. And comment below. Would you have helped Eleanor, even if it meant losing your job? Your voice matters here. Before you go, don't miss our next powerful story. CEO accused elderly janitor of stealing diamond watch. Didn't know he's the board chairman's father. Click the video on your screen now to see how arrogance turns into regret in the most unexpected way. Because sometimes the people you overlook are the ones who hold all the power.